monster in your ears, boy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Texas Sports World. I'm your host, Ethan, and we are here to discuss. Because it's a pretty big week coming up. It's the schedule release week. I have been away from the YouTube for a couple of weeks, or for a little bit, anyways. Not really weeks, but for a couple of days. I've been working a little bit more on the writing side of things. I put out a couple of things on the Substack. That'll be in the description below. Make sure you put your email in there and you can get updates whenever anything is posted on there. I've got a thread on basketball right now. The basketball transfer portal thread, I have that up there right now. I have a breakdown of each individual draft pick and kind of what I think they're going to be in years coming up and things like that, kind of my overall analysis of the draft. The gist of it, just so I can kind of put it in video form. Initially, I was not impressed. It felt like Nick kind of got outplayed, outmaneuvered. I think it was very obvious they wanted Kool-Aid. I think Kamari Lassiter was a, oh shit, we got to pick somebody. Pick. I don't think he was, plan A. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not a bad plan B by any stretch. I just don't think he was the initial pick. And then the Eric Fisher, or I think that's his name. See, I can't even think of his name off the top of my head. The tackle in the second round. It didn't make any sense to me. It felt like you were reaching for a tackle. Granted, you do have Titus Howard, who missed some time. LT missed some time. So maybe having a high end backup tackle won't be the end of the world. I've kind of come around to that line of thinking. Initially, I was like, what are we doing? There was plenty of other positions of higher need that we could have picked. Everybody assumed defensive tackle was going to be one of our first picks. It was actually one of our last. We actually picked 2 offensive linemen before we picked a defensive tackle. Or we picked, I think it was the defensive tackle came right before because we picked a guard with the last pick of the draft. That was, okay. All right. I'm okay with that, I suppose. But needless to say, defensive tackle was not the highest on the needs list for the team. Apparently, it wasn't highest on the board. That or they felt like they could get higher value later in the draft, and so they passed on some guys in the middle round, which I suppose makes a little bit of sense. And then I spoke on one of my probably going to be my favorite of this class is probably going to end up being Jawhar Jordan, the running back out of Louisville. Him and Garanado both split reps at Louisville, and we're both very highly touted running backs. Or not both, but at least Garanado was. He's really fast. So his speed was kind of one of his sticking points for his value in the draft. Jawhar Jordan is kind of odd that he didn't get more buzz or any type of I didn't even like his name hadn't come across my radar the entire draft process. And maybe I should have done a little bit more research, but needless to say, regardless, it didn't. It didn't come across, his name didn't come across, my desk at all. But after watching some film and kind of seeing, what he was working with, 1,100 yards. I think he missed some time with some injury, and he had Garanado. So you have guys that, these 2 guys in the same backfield, both draftable players. And then watching his film, he's very slippery. He's a very slippery back. I think he kind of meshes well. I think he's kind of the perfect middle ground between Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce. Not saying he's going to be super a part of the offense or anything like that, but I think maybe as time goes on, you could see him kind of carving out his own role, in the offense. Granted, I would have liked us to maybe get a bit of a more established back, but I think with where we got him, I think the value is there. I think he's very valuable with the pick that we got him. And then we, the safety out of USC, Kalen Bullock. He's more of a center field type of safety. He's a really, really good cover safety. He's super wiry, not very strong, not very big. But kind of does what the Texans had been lacking, which is a cover safety, because Petrie and Ward aren't great cover guys. So having that type of guy back there, I think will definitely prove to be beneficial for this defense. Let's see. So this week, as I mentioned before, is the schedule release. I believe it's this week. I think it's on the 9th. Here, I'll go ahead and share. So I have a graphic. It's not mine. There's credit on there for whose it is, so I'm not stealing it. There's credit. But so yeah, so here we go. We're gonna go like this. All righty. So here is the schedule at home. We got the Colts, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Miami, Tennessee, Baltimore, Chicago, and Detroit. And then away is the Colts, Patriots, Jaguars, Jets, Titans, Chiefs, Cowboys, Packers, and Vikings. Now, there was I posted something on the Texas Sports World Twitter, so be sure to check that out. It's also on the bottom of the screen. Oh, before we go on any further, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to comment, leave comments. Let me know what's up. And then I'll interact on Twitter. So follow me on Twitter at Texas Sports World, but there's no O, so it's just Texas Sports WRLD. Anyways, so moving on. So on Twitter, I had posted something along the lines of, like somebody had asked what everybody thought what the record could be for the Texans coming up. I had said, so I have a little bit of Texans PTSD, especially coming out of last year, where there's so many one-score games, and they're playing really high. They're playing at a really high level, and so you kind of work yourself into this. Holy crap! No, we could actually we're actually really we could win. We could win some games. We're pretty good. And then things happen. You run into Baltimore. Yada yada. Here we are. Right. I said 11-6. Just because I feel like there's always one or two random losses. Excuse me. Random losses in there. And I think I'm gonna walk through why I thought, and you know what, I might, by the end of this, I might do something different than 11-6, because I'm feeling different today than I did when I thought about that. So this is obviously straight up just who's going to win. It has nothing to do with where they're playing, because we don't know, because obviously that'll kind of change things. But just on paper, right? So I have been a big proponent, or a big, how do I say? I'm not a big believer in Anthony Hill. And JT, he's one of my friends. I'm going to try to get him on the pod here soon. He's a big Colts fan, so we get in arguments over Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud pretty often. So I'm not a big fan of Anthony Richardson, so I'm not sure that I buy, don't get me wrong, when he played the Texans at first, don't get me wrong, he played really well and they won. Okay, yeah, but I got to think that CJ Stroud, with a year under his belt, is just on a whole nother level than where Anthony Richardson, could be this year. So I think that's a win. I think that's a win both times. So that's 2 wins. I think we sweep them this year. I think with our improvements at every level within the draft, adding depth guys within the draft, there's cornerstones at every level. There's guys at every level on the Texans that can make a difference. You got Hunter, you got Will Anderson in the middle or at the front. Danico Autry can play a little bit of defensive tackle. So there's your front. Then you got Azeez Al-Shire, and then Christian Harris in the right in the at linebacker, and then you got Derek Stingley at corner. So you have your secondary. Jalen Petrie, when he wants to be good, can be good. So there's your safety. Jimmy Ward, he's really good as well. Not really good, but he's okay. But at all levels, you have guys that have either played very high at a very high level or have guys that can play at a very high level with Christian Harris, Jalen Petrie, and I think Azeez Al-Shire has played at a high level, but I think he could play at an even higher level. So I think that's a win. So that's 2 wins. And then you got Buffalo. So obviously we have Stephon Diggs. We take Stephon Diggs. They haven't really done a whole lot. They haven't really added a whole lot. I think obviously there's always the Josh Allen thing. He's either going to throw for 5 touchdowns and 340 yards, or he's going to throw for 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and like 280. You never know which Josh Allen you're going to get, right? So I think that's a win. I think that's a win. And then we got the Jags at home. Oh, I don't know why earlier I said we don't know where they're playing. Obviously, we know where they're playing. There's home and away. Duh. That was dumb. Wow. So you got the Jags. I think this is another sweep, honestly. I mean, I don't know. The whole Trevor Lawrence thing, he can be very good. He's shown that. I mean, and then get playoffs, was it not this year, 2 years ago, whenever, he's throws like 3 or 4 interceptions, and then he comes back and they end up winning against the Bills, oddly enough. So see, I'm gonna split it. I'm gonna play it on the safe side. I think, playing in Jacksonville, obviously that didn't matter last year. Like CJ said, he went trim on them. He went crazy in Jacksonville. Him and Tank went nuts. But for whatever reason, they always seem to give us fits. So right now I'm at 3-1. And then we got the Dolphins. Look, they got Tyreek, they got OBJ, they got Devin Achane. They got some dudes over there. They got Tua. And as good as I would like to think our defense is going to be this upcoming year, sometimes when you run into an offense that has that type of firepower with Mike McDaniel back there calling plays, you kind of got to play it on this. I don't know, man. This is close. I'm gonna go with a loss. I'm gonna go 3-2. And then so we are 3-0. We are 3-1 at home. Or hold on. You know what? I'm gonna get me a piece of paper and I'm gonna be right back so I can write down exactly what I do so I don't lose my brain. Okay, I'm back. So now I got my handy dandy paper with some notes on it, some thoughts. Not really, just numbers. Okay, so where did we leave off at? So I'm just gonna stay at home. So right now I got the Colts win, Bills win, Jags win, Dolphins. That's gonna be a struggle, so I put that as an L. Tennessee win because I hate them. Baltimore. I just don't know if we have enough to overcome that Lamar factor. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. We just got to see we just got to see. This is a little bit of that PTSD kicking in, where it's like you want to believe, you want to like stand on the table with all the things that have been going on. It's been a really good offseason so far, especially coming off of last year. CJ and Will in year 2, Will in year 2. You really just want to, but it's just really hard. Chicago, obviously W. Detroit, I have a lot of respect for Dan Campbell in Detroit. I really think that they got something going there. So I put that as a loss. So that's 5-3 at home. I think the teams you lose to are all they're playoff teams. You would like to at least get one of those, especially being at home. And you might get one of those. You might get the Dolphins at home. I would say of the 3, the Dolphins might be the most makes sense to flip. And then away, we got the Colts. That's a W. Like I said earlier, I think we sweep them. Patriots, that's a W. I think that's okay. And then Jags, I know earlier I said I was going to split it, but when I was kind of going through it again, I was like, you know what? I think we got them. I think we could pull it off. I think that, obviously they add Gabe Davis, but okay, that doesn't scare me. We add Stephon Diggs. What's up? So I think that's a W. The Jets, I think that's look, you got Aaron Rodgers. You can, 2-time MVP. It's just got to give respect where respect is due. And I hope without Aaron Rodgers, I think it's easy. I think we beat him last year if we played not in a crappy weather and CJ doesn't get hurt. I think we beat him almost pretty easily. But throwing Aaron Rodgers in there, you just never know. So I put that down as a loss. Tennessee sweep, that's a W. Kansas City, I wrote about this in the article as well. They added Xavier Worthy in the draft, and it kind of just makes me sad. It makes me sad. So I gotta watch that. Really, he's gonna be in my division, playing against my team. Come on now, he's supposed to be on my team. He's supposed to be on it. Yeah, you can tell I'm very frustrated. So yeah, obviously, I think that's a loss. Especially just being in Kansas City. Dallas, I hate them, and I don't like the fact that CJ and Micah Parsons have gotten super close. Don't love it. Actually, I'm not a big fan of it. Unless he wants to come. If he wants to come to the Texans, come on, brother. Come on, brother. But don't try to take him away from us. Don't try to take CJ from us. Okay, we waited a long time for this. And then, so that's a W because I hate him. Green Bay, I think. Look, Jordan Love can ball. I think he's really good. I think he's proved a lot of people wrong. But I think kind of what I mentioned earlier, the Texans have the luxury at this point to where they have a lot of guys at a lot of different positions, and I think just head to head, matchup to matchup, I think the Texans just outweigh the Packers. So the away that brings us to 7-2. And in total, that's 12-5. But like I said, I think the Baltimore win could bring us to no, not Baltimore, the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins could bring us to 13-4. But I could also just as easily see us losing to Green Bay, or that's pretty much it. I mean, I feel like this team could really beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Like beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. I think if you can just beat the teams you're supposed to beat and maybe win one or two games against playoff worthy teams, I think that could really be a good thing. I think I could see 11-6. I can see 13-4. I feel like that's kind of the range that this collection of Texans should be able to accomplish, especially in year 2 with CJ and Will, and Tank. And I'm gonna get into Tank here in just a second. About that whole situation that went down. I'll get into that. But for right now, that's kind of where I'm at with the schedule. 12-5, anywhere between 11-4 or 11-6 and 13-4 is kind of where I'm at. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop back in here. I don't want this on my screen anymore. Exit. There we go. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about the schedule. So I didn't really say much about this because I didn't want to speak on a situation that I feel like not everybody knows everything about. I heard some people saying, like, Chad Ochocinco was basically saying that he texted Tank and said that, you need to move differently. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with that. I mean, how do you even know, like, who he was with? It could have been a situation of the wrong place, wrong time. He probably wasn't even involved in the altercation to begin with. So how can you move differently when you're not moving wrong? So, prayers go out to Tank. By all accounts, he's, made a pretty speedy recovery. He should make a speedy recovery. Should be ready in time for the season. Probably even sooner than that. So he said he seems to be in good spirits. Nick said he's been in and out of the building, so that's all good news. So I mean, that's really all I got to say on that front. I mean, there's not a whole lot. Tank's fine. Obviously, I don't. We're not going to get too political on here. So we'll leave it at that. Let's see, what else do I want to get into? I guess that's really all I got for today. Just a short little video clip on the schedule, kind of where I think things should shake out. Obviously, there's a little bit, things could change here and there. But before I get out of here, be sure to like and subscribe. Everything you need to know is on the little, where is it at? The little ticker on the bottom of the screen right here. I'll have the Substack link in the description. I'll have probably a couple more articles. This is my weekend now, so I'm going to be pumping things out. So just be on the lookout for that. Yeah. So I guess I will see you guys around. Maybe when I can get out of here in just a second. There's the button. Later.